Good morning, gamers. This is Energy Blade, Shock Nova of Procession, Heirophant. This is my first time doing Energy Blade, and probably first time doing like a real spellcaster mana guy in general. I don't think I've ever made a Heirophant in my life. I've done a few Templars, but those have always been, you know, like some sort of Inquisitor attack build. But yeah, this character was pretty fun to put together. Probably my favorite guy to put together, honestly, in terms of like how defensive it feels, in terms of the, you know, overall feel of the ability that they added, this Shock Nova here. It's really snappy. Just feels nice to play a self-cast character with, you know, a reliable amount of damage. So let's get into the character here. So of course we are using Energy Blade. If you don't know what this does by now, this gives you a buff that replaces your weapon. So if I take it off, I have a massive amount of energy shield. This is also the most ES I've ever had in any character on any league. This is completely insane. But what it does is it gives you half of your energy shield, so it cuts it in half, and then it gives you, so right here I have this just generic garbage weapon with a abyssal socket, which does transfer over to the Energy Blade, so you can use something like this and get a very powerful abyss jewel effect while also having a crazy weapon. So you add a bunch of your ES as damage to this weapon, which then gets ultimately added to your spells via some gems and the Inquisitor Ascendancy to give you Battle Mage, which we are using. Just building off this, the best way to do this is obviously you go Foulborn Ghostwraith, stack a bunch of life, get a Wrathpith Globe, blah blah blah. But I was watching Mathel do this character, the Arcane Surge stacker, with the Lightning Tendies, which looked pretty cool. But I didn't want to just copy that one-to-one. I like to make slightly variations of my own builds with a little bit of inspiration, of course. So we are using Shock Nova of Procession here. This is the new Transfigured gem that they added this patch. I saw it in the trailer and I was like, you know what? That looks like something that I would like to play. And boy, was I right. This, I don't know how long I played this guy for. 1 day, 20. So it's more... Deaths 24, so very cozy. Normally I have like at least triple these deaths on a character this long, but it was pretty smooth. But yeah, so what this looks like by default, let me take out Echo, which is a crazy gem as well. So by default it just repeats 2 times, looks like that. Let me go down a little bit so you can see it better. So it repeats about, you know, about to here. And if you put in Greater Echo, it does way more repeats and hits well off the screen. I can't even really show you it without it hitting a wall. But the other thing about hitting a wall is, if you'll see, if I target a wall and I'm close to it, the repeats will all hit the same area, which can then do a crazy amount of shotgunning. You can hit them with, I don't know how many this even is. Something like two repeats from this, 2 more from this. So you hit them with a bunch of hits with 1 cast. And if they, you know, if you're in a boss arena with a wall, you can kind of do this and just spam against the wall. You did that on Simulacrum and maybe Maven Arena, just stuff like that makes it pretty good. Otherwise, it's not that impressive for bossing, since you're probably going to hit with maybe 3 overlaps at most on some guy if he's like running at you or stationary. Like maybe he's right here, I think is a good overlap. But regardless, it's morally, it was never really made to be an uber, you know, one-shot boss guy. Mostly a mapper. I was doing a bunch of like 400-ish delve. First time really doing delve, so very comfy for that. But anyways, that's enough yapping. Let's get into the gear. So of course we have our Energy Blade here, and in this we have a Stone Golem that's always dead, so I don't really think I should be using this. This could be any other gem. I don't know. Maybe even a Spectre. But when he's alive, he gives me like 300 energy shield. So it's like a slight damage bonus compared to something like Empower in here. And then, of course, Energy Blade, just to give us all of our damage. Going over the shield, I went super defensive on this. So I just grabbed 2 titaniums with block, and then I combined them together until it hit, and then just slammed on any prefix. Doesn't really matter. If you wanted to go for like prefix spell damage here, that would be ideal, but that thing is pretty rare, and I didn't feel like doing a 3-mod recombo. In hindsight, I probably should have, because that would give me a lot more damage. I'm kind of lacking on increased damage in this build, so that would be probably like 10 or 20% more DPS. But anyways, once you get the prefixes, you slam it with a Shaper Orb. Maybe you hit the recover on block mod, maybe not. I didn't. But then you just lock prefixes and then reforge defense until you hit this recover ES on block mod. I did not actually need this reservation mod, but it actually just popped up, and I thought, you know, why not? I'll put my auras in there. It'll give me a little bit more mana. And then if you wanted to go further, you could hit the ES mod, lock prefixes again, hit it with a Veiled Exalt, try not to remove the ES on block mod, and then Unveiled double damage naturally, which is like up to 10% double damage, and then you can craft on whatever you want. But this is good enough, does what it does, very defensive. It's very hard to die when you recover like, you know, a couple hundred energy shield every time you block, and we are sitting at a nice comfy 51 attack, 64 spell, and with roomies up, which is most of the time, we got a nice 62, 69, nice block, and it's pretty comfy. In here, we got Petrified Blood, just so we can maintain our low life, and a little bit of Overleech, and Arrogance linked to Tempest Shield, just for the spell block. And it's kind of funny, my Tempest Shield does a lot of damage. If I can put it on my bar here, it does, you know, 76k average hit, and if I have Arcane Surge up, it's even a little bit more, you know, 100k lightning top end. So like sometimes you could just stand there and this will kill things, and then it, you know, it's just kind of funny. But yeah, that's the shield. Moving on to the helmet. This was a self-fracture, so I just bought this base for, I don't know how many divines, maybe like 1 or 2. Rolled it till I had a good flat ES, or a good percent ES roll. Luckily fractured it. Skillfully, of course. And yeah, just rolled defense until I hit something good. This could be a little better. Obviously you don't want stone skin, stun and block recovery on there, but it hit 2 reses, filled it up, and I thought, you know what, why not? I finished this quite early compared to everything else. So, and then in here we got a nice 4-link automation setup with more duration, cooldown recovery, and then this is my Arcane Cloak. This is up probably half of the time. Yeah, it's like 2.76 seconds, and then it lasts for about 5. So it's only down for a little bit, and this gives me a lot of tank. So it's like a 1600 shield, and then it gives you a little bit more damage. Obviously diluted a little bit because of the energy blade stuff, but it's a primary. The primary reason I use this is for defensive purposes. It's quite nice. And then the chest piece is just a Twilight Regalia with Fractured ES. I think I fractured this myself, or maybe bought it. I don't remember. But this was just defense rolled until I hit 100% increase. And then honestly, I also made this very early, and I didn't feel like recrafting these. Yeah, I just got some res, got T1 int, figured that was good enough, which it was. Slapped on some implicits, called it a day. In here we got the main 6-link setup. So it's Shock Nova with increased crit damage. This is not the best imbue. I think the best imbue is either Power Charge on crit if you want to scale power charges, beyond, you know, there's just the 4 minimum that you get. Alternatively, increased crit strikes is very good as a level 1. It's just 2 base crits, 60% increased. That would be more damage because then it lets you run a full juiced crit damage support, which is like 140 multi or so. But I got this on, I think, like the 7th or 8th coin, which, you know, that was good enough. There's also a case to use this one, the concentrated effect. It makes it a bit smaller, but it does make it do a little bit more damage. At least in PoB it says it does. I'm not really a fan of it because it makes it smaller, but the shotgunning is still, you know, it's still potentially there, so you don't really miss anything if it's a boss that you can actually hit against the wall. But I've actually been using crit damage for now. Does what it do. And then link to Greater Spell Echo. This at level 4 is probably way better, of course, but that is expensive. And I think it's like 65 or 70% more cast speed with a little bit more per repeat. Pretty crazy stuff. You want to be hitting them with the end of this cast chain if you can for optimal damage. And then this is another way you can scale a weapon to spell damage type of character. It just adds your damage to the spell based on the amount of flat damage on your weapon, which is a humongous number. Just classic energy blade scaling. Arcane Surge, we're primarily focusing on Arcane Surge. We have a couple of things that interact with this. This is a pretty solid gem. And then Unholy Trinity, first time using this too. At level 4, this has a 100% chance to ignore lightning and chaos res, so that's a little bit better. It's probably 7% more damage or something, but I don't really feel like corrupting these. Crit strike support, of course this would be replaced with crit damage, but it's still okay. I'm sitting at something like, I don't know, where's my crit chance? 60, 61 crit chance. With Assassin's Mark, it goes to, I don't know, 80 or so. So it's fine. It's just fine. Gloves, grabbed some of these bad boys, 23s. Fractured this myself, one try, very skillful. Hit the essence of something, woe or something. Hit the woe until I got T1 percent ES, and then locked prefix, veiled chaos, unveiled focus speed, slammed on a huge regen roll. This is absolutely vital. 1.3 life regen makes the build, and then just craft it on Dex Int because we have a little bit of Dex problems because Unholy Trinity. And then in here we got our Clarity. This is our only actual aura. We are using the Sublime Clarity for Arcane Surge effect. And then Frostblink, Assassin's Mark, linked to Arcanist Brand, just to make our mark a little bit more automated since we don't have a attack in this build to use it with. For the shoes, we got the Ghoul Track Warlock boots. Got some brittle on these, fractured ES, rolled 4. I think I finished the suffixes first, so I was like just looking for, since we're not CI, we need Chaos Res, and I needed Chaos Res with another Res ideally, and then T1 int. After that, lock the suffixes, reforge with a Veiled Chaos Orb, hit the 30% movement speed. Realize I forgot to go over the boots. The boot gems, we got Sigil of Power. Just on its own, this thing is just a good defensive buff. It charges to full pretty quickly, and then it becomes, what is it, 23% less damage from enemies in this big circle. Quite nice. Less duration with Swift Affliction and a Lightning Orb. This is our primary movement skill. Just, you know, feels pretty snappy. For the jewelry, we have a Great Wolf. This actually was better than anything I could have reasonably crafted. I think this was maybe 100 chaos. The more expensive thing was getting the corrupted oil, which was like 3 or 4 divines to put Tranquility on here. But this thing gives me an insane amount of ES. It's like almost 900 on top of getting a little bit more lightning damage, which we had a problem with, and yeah, Transfigure of Soul on there just to give us more percent ES to spell damage. Pretty good. Okay, the first ring here, I've been toying around with this slot for a little bit. Ultimately landed on this. It's a bit more defensive than some options. It helps me cap my Chaos Res. It gives me a little bit more life, a little bit more mana, and a little bit more ES. So pretty good all-arounder. I was using, for some time, I was using Barracks with the Explode. But honestly, I didn't really feel like I needed the Explode to clear because this thing hits the whole screen basically. So it is what it is. But this ring is pretty insane, honestly. I don't know how I bought this. This was 2 or 3 divs? I don't know. Quad positive with cast speed, ES, mana, cold, and crit. So this thing gives me 4-ish hundred ES and like 500 mana. I don't know. This thing is insane. I was running around with a Calandra touch, getting 2 of these, which is crazy for that cast speed. But I mean, my cast time is 0.06 seconds, so it's not really that crazy. I was much rather tanking, yeah, whatever. And then Mega Blood. Enough said. Got the flask set up here. Onslaught with can't avoid, or to avoid shock. We got a Chaos Res flask for Curse Immune, and Quicksilver with Res helps me cap my Res, and Crit Flask with Stun Avoid. Very nice setup. Wouldn't change a thing. Honorable mention here is Aureus End. I was using this too in less scary content that I want big clear for. It was good in Beyond Delirium when I was farming that, just to blow up those things. Let's get into the tree. Boom. So here is the tree, bunch of circles everywhere, classic. We are a Heirophant, first time making this guy. We're opting to go for the mana stack route, kind of. Getting these guys, Divine Guidance, Sanctuary, just a little bit more area of effect, a little bit more ES as, from our mana. Getting the minimum charges. This is actually super comfy. It's very, very nice running around with 4 min endurance. You just kind of feel a little bit more resilient at all times. Same with the powers. Just click this, you get 200% crit chance. Very nice. And then Arcane Blessing for Arcane Surge scaling. This gives us a lot more damage, surprisingly, with the amount of extra Arcane Surge effect that we have. So it's pretty good. We're stealing Instruments of Virtue from Inquisitor. So this gives you Battle Mage, which gains added spell damage equal to the damage of your main hand weapon. So my main hand weapon is humongous, so my spells gain this much damage. Pretty good. So without this, I'm at, whatever that tooltip means, 1.08. With it, 1.71. You could also play this on Inquisitor, I guess. However, you wouldn't get like the Arcane Surge scaling or the extra mana as ES. It would probably be comparable. But yeah, we are pathing over here to a Lethal Pride. This gives us a little bit more strength because without it, my character will explode. I think we have 2 double damage nodes, one here and one here on the Arcane Capacitor node. Grabbing a Runegraft of the Fortress for increased global defenses. This gives a nice amount of ES, couple hundred. Pathing up here, getting some crit, some life, shield mastery. And our first cluster is a Arcane Hero Mage Hunter combo, which puts these in the front. So a little bit more Arcane Surge effect, and a little bit of spell block and spell damage. For a little bit, I was running with 2 of these. It was pretty much mirrored on both sides, but ultimately I needed more increased damage, so I dropped one of them to make a 12 lightning, which we'll get to in a moment. But yeah, in the sockets here, we are using the Sublime for Clarity, which is a pretty underground, underused item. Shout out Mathel once again. The Arcane Surge increase effect does scale with the Ascendancy 20% more, so I forget exactly how much more multiplier Arcane Surge ends up getting, maybe about 60 or something. So Very nice. We don't really need any more auras or want them since we are using Mind Over Matter to protect our life. And that helps us get a bigger arcane cloak, etc. Other thing here is a nice and juicy Watcher's Eye. 8 mana before life and 10 mana as extra ES while affected by clarity. This thing was, I don't know, 10 divines or something, and yeah, without this I lose like 500 ES or so. So quite nice, and a little bit more tank as well. Pathing down here, getting the increased ES helmet mastery, very nice. Stealing the tech that most people are using, Foulborn Blue Nightmare. This thing enables Unholy Trinity since we have a little bit of chaos damage that will eventually be higher than our lightning damage, balancing it out. Very cool. You don't even need to tattoo these for lightning, but if you're low on res, pretty free. This is just standard middle unnatural instinct stacking, so grabbing the unnatural here for all those stats, pretty juicy. Gives us like the area nodes here, mana nodes, a little bit of cast speed. This thing is, this combo is crazy. And then getting an ES Light of Meaning, cheapest these have ever been. Probably paid like 11D for this, but look at that ES. It's like 1300 post Energy Blade. Can't beat it. Grabbing this whole wheel because it's actually pretty good when you have the, these are 9% per point. This is just a bunch of spell damage. Quite nice. This is 30%, does not bypass. Helps stay alive since we are not CI. The biggest weakness we have, honestly, is chaos damage, but we have a bunch of chaos res. We have Overleach, we have Mind Over Matter at approximately 48%, I think. Unless there's more here, I don't remember. Yeah, I think it's like 48% mana taken his life, so we're pretty resilient to actually dying to chaos damage. It'll need to be a crazy big, like, chaos slam, which that doesn't really exist. So that's nice. Grabbing this Mana Mastery for a little bit res. I don't think I need this anymore. This was a relic of when I was using more auras. But either way, these two are pretty good for increased mana. The next jewel here is just a Storm Shroud to complete the Ailment Immunity combo. Very nice. Got a little bit of area on there. Not sure if that even gives me a breakpoint, but it's there regardless. Scaling Pain Attunement, of course. And then pathing up here for our final jewel. This is a nice wheel for leeching ES. Keeps us, topped up. And the Lightning Mastery gives us 100% crit against shocked enemies, and shock effect is also increased by our increases to max mana, which we have quite a bunch of. For the jewel here, we have a nice 12 lightning with effect, cast speed with lightning, and then max ES. So all of these give me 14 ES per click, 16 damage, 4% cast speed. Pretty hard to beat one of these. So yeah, that is the build, and I just thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!